2024 Midyear Conference. Now, please welcome to the stage ULCT President and Provo City Mayor, Michelle Kafusi.
Welcome to our closing session of this year's wonderful conference. Remember that the strength of the league comes from you, our members. I encourage you to make sure that you have officials from your city attending our LPC, that you subscribe to our emails, and you get to know the board members who represent your area. That's just all the league stuff, right? Those who know me, that's not my personality. But anyways, doing housekeeping. To kick off today's programming, we want to thank Zion's Bake for their continued partnership. They are unable to join us today, but their support of the league has been longstanding and appreciated. Now we'll be pleased to hear from Alicia DeCara from Get Healthy Utah to present this year's Healthy Utah Communities. Then Deputy Director Molly Wheeler and Hilldale Mayor and ULCT board member Danya Jessup will talk about establishing a conflict-resilient community. All right, come on up.
Good morning. I'm Alicia, Executive Director at Get Healthy Utah. We're a nonprofit that partners with the Utah League of Cities and Towns to do the Healthy Utah Community Designation. We're coming up on our 10-year anniversary at Get Healthy Utah, which is another exciting milestone for us. And we started the designation back in 2020 and have had a lot of communities designated so far. Before I announce the new designees, I wanted to share a few events that are coming up that you might be interested in so that you can learn how you can build healthy communities. So first we have our Healthy Communities Roadshow, maybe, if it's switching. Oh, let's go back. There we go. Okay. Healthy Communities Roadshow. This is our first time ever visiting everyone in person. We're coming out to your regions and we're talking about building healthy communities. We've already been to 4 regions so far. So we hit Bear River, Weber Morgan, Northern Salt Lake, and yesterday or 2 days ago in St. George. But if you're in the other regions, we invite you to come join our Healthy Communities Roadshow and learn what you can do to build healthy communities around physical activity, access to healthy food, and mental well-being. Next, we have our first ever combined Connected Community Summit in the fall, and we're doing this with Bike Utah and Move Utah, and we're talking about how, again, we can build across sectors. Oftentimes, we each do our own conference, but this conference, we're gonna all be in the same room. Health people, planners, elected officials, city staff, all coming together to talk about building healthy communities. And a part of this event is our community case studies. We want you, cities and towns, to look at your communities and say, what challenges do you have when it comes to building healthy communities? Do you have issues with connectivity? Do you have issues with getting access to healthy food? And we want you to submit your challenges to our case study, and we're gonna have all of our experts in the room during the summit. If you're chosen, your city can come present what your challenge is, and we'll have everyone come up with some solutions, some resources, possible grants that we can help your community with, and then you can go back to your community with those ideas. So this is something new that we're doing, and we need all of you to submit those challenges, things that you're working on, so that we can help figure out how we can build a healthy community in your space. So with that, I'm gonna announce our new designees. We have both new designees and then redesignated. It's a 3-year designation. So I'm gonna start with our new designees. So if you're here, stand up, and then after I read the 6 new designees, we'll give you, we have a rule at Get Healthy Utah. We do active clapping, standing ovations. So after we do our 6 new designees, everyone will stand up, get your blood moving, and we'll clap for them. So if you're here, we have Mapleton, Orem, Saratoga Springs, Smithfield, South Jordan, and West Point as our new designated Healthy Utah communities. Let's stand up and give them a round of applause. Thank you. And now we have our biggest cohort of redesignated communities. They did their 3-year designation and kept working on strategies. So 11 new redesignated communities. If you're here, stand up and we'll do another round of applause. We have Annabella, Harriman, Magna, Marriott Slaterville, Mill Creek, North Logan, Park City, Sandy, South Salt Lake, St. George, and Vineyard. Awesome, standing ovation. Thank you so much to the cities and towns that have committed to put health first in your communities and prioritize the quality of life of your residents. We are grateful for this collaboration with the League. We're grateful for all of you here and the huge role that you have on the impact of health in your communities. We will now end with a video that is going to talk about what our new designees did to become a healthy Utah community. Thank you. Life is better when you live in a healthy community. So if you want to know what makes a healthy community and why it's important, it helps to talk to the people tasked with running our cities and towns.
The value to a healthy community is it builds stronger bonds and ties to the local area.
I think a healthy community is critical. What we look at is we look at our social connection, we look at that we're physically active, and then we look at we're financially resilient.
Physical health and mental and emotional health, those things matter. I think we're seeing that they have a significant impact on our kids, and it's a point of emphasis that we really need to make.
I think a healthy community is where you want to live, not where you have to live.
It's easy to see why living in a healthy community benefits residents in numerous ways. And one of the easiest and most effective ways to foster a vibrant, thriving population is to qualify as a healthy Utah community by Get Healthy Utah.
This is something we decided to do because we are proud of the programs that we're doing. It's been something we've had as a high priority for quite some time.
And we thought, who's more healthy than Orem? It makes sense to just go through the process. What I liked about the designation is it creates a roadmap and it creates accountability.
We are already considered or called the health city, Utah's health city. And so when I saw the designation was being awarded, I thought, why aren't we doing this?
We believe with our small town, big heart motto that we're already doing the things that Get Healthy Utah is promoting, and so we thought it was a perfect fit.
Over 40 Utah cities and towns have already achieved this great designation. Today, we congratulate 6 new cities and towns being recognized as a healthy Utah community: Smithfield, West Point, South Jordan, Saratoga Springs, Orem, and Mapleton.
Smithfield.
Nestled in the picturesque Cache Valley and renowned for its rich agricultural heritage, Smithfield's friendly atmosphere and strong sense of community offers a welcoming haven to the city's 15,000 residents.
The strategy Smithfield utilized to receive their Healthy Utah Community designation reinforced their distinction as Utah's health city. Some of these strategies included gardening and food preservation classes, a robust sports program, mental health workshops for city employees, and a powerful commitment to the well-being of seniors.
One of the things we're really proud of is we have a senior citizens group, all run by volunteers. And usually there's a lunch, and then usually there is some kind of entertainment, or the library actually provides a service where they bring books to them that they can check out. They bring a list and they can check out books and they will deliver them to them. So it really opens the world up for seniors who can't get out as well as other people can.
West Point.
Boasting scenic views and a tranquil ambiance, West Point is a serene suburban enclave of nearly 12,000 residents that offers a delightful blend of small-town charm and modern amenities.
West Point has shown a strong commitment to the health, safety, and well-being of its citizens by developing an active transportation plan, healthy eating initiatives, and mental health awareness programs, as well as having spectacular outdoor recreation opportunities.
West Point City is an amazing city. We're small in size, but we're huge in heart. We're a growing city. We really have focused on being together and being collaborative and having connections. We have an incredible trail system here, miles and miles of trail systems here. We've got wonderful parks that are well maintained and are used regularly. We have a recreation program that's second to none here. The participation numbers in this continues to grow year after year after year.
South Jordan.
With its blend of cultural attractions and outdoor recreational opportunities, South Jordan, a thriving city of 80,000 residents, offers a dynamic environment for residents and visitors alike.
From senior health fairs and farmers markets to free gun locks and a winter fitness challenge, South Jordan employs multiple health and well-being strategies, but their Sojo Race Series just may be their most celebrated initiative.
We used to do a full marathon here in South Jordan and some half marathons, but we found that more people liked participating in our Sojo Race Series 5K races. So we've decided to put all of our emphasis on those races, and they are wildly popular. People love coming together every month. You can walk or run, bring your kids on a bike, you can push a stroller. It doesn't matter your age or your time, and people love coming out for the Sojo Race Series.
Saratoga Springs.
Nestled along the shores of Utah Lake, Saratoga Springs showcases breathtaking views, and with its abundant outdoor activities and family-friendly environment, the city provides an ideal setting for both relaxation and adventure.
Saratoga Springs executed several well-balanced strategies to earn their Healthy Utah Community designation, including expanded walking and bike trails, mental wellness initiatives, a backyard poultry ordinance, and their extremely popular Get to the River campaign.
Our Get to the River campaign, getting people out to enjoy the Jordan River, is multifaceted. It's the walking trails along the Jordan River. It's the bike trails. It's the ability to go urban fishing here. It's also a unique opportunity to take a boat or a kayak or an inflatable and get on the river and just enjoy being here, being outdoors.
Orem.
Celebrated for its stunning mountain vistas, Orem offers a diverse array of cultural attractions, strong educational institutions, and a thriving economy, all of which foster an enriching environment for the city's 96,000 residents.
Orem's commitment to the health and well-being of its residents was exemplified through multiple tactics, including free and low-cost sports programs, school meal initiatives, safe transportation ordinances, and a robust Connection to Nature program amplified by the city's more than 20 parks.
On the social side, we have all kinds of activities throughout the city that allow people to become engaged, to work together, a lot of volunteer efforts. And then we also move on to physical activity. We've got 23 parks. We've got a new city center with no taxes. We've got this awesome rec center. But as we do all these different things, we try and do it in a way that makes it so that it doesn't cost them hardly anything. And I think that's, as a community, a way that we all benefit.
Mapleton.
With its lush greenery, charming neighborhoods, thriving local businesses, and stunning backdrop of the Wasatch Mountains, Mapleton is a close-knit community of nearly 12,500 residents.
Drawing upon comprehensive strategies that include food drives and farmers markets, and innovative tactics like the interactive Chalk the Walk and Burn Bright for mental health events, Mapleton goes all out to bolster the health and well-being of its residents.
Burn Bright event is an opportunity at the end of the year to come together. Well, we get to get rid of all the Christmas trees for one that are now dead. And so we get to burn those and create a big bonfire. And then it gives you an opportunity to put away the old you and start a new year and set new goals and come and dance and have a good time and interact with our citizens here.
Every city that receives a Healthy Utah Community designation makes a vital commitment to the health and well-being of its residents, a commitment that is recognized and appreciated by those who live there.
We receive a lot of feedback all the time. We're very engaged. We look at it like we were elected to represent you, and so unless we know what you want, we can't make that happen.
They're excited about a free food exchange from gardens. They're excited that we're improving programs for mental health.
Talk to people all over, not just live in our city, that come and enjoy our pickleball courts. They're the best that money can build. There's a lot of them. It's a great place to have it. It's close to the highway, and it brings traffic, which brings business to our city.
Congratulations to the 2024 Healthy Utah Community designees. We are also happy to announce a new round of communities to be redesignated. Annabella, Harriman, Magna, Marriott Slaterville, Mill Creek, North Logan, Park City, Sandy, South Salt Lake, St. George, and Vineyard. To learn what health strategies they implemented, visit gethealthyutah.org and subscribe to the Healthy Utah Community newsletter.
Healthy community is a happy community.
It brings awareness to what cities are doing, and that makes a big difference when people know there's somewhere to go and somewhere to be active. People come together. They're no longer separate individuals. They are a community, and a tight community builds a better place to live.
I think it's a great program. I think anything that raises awareness, that gets people engaged in a good cause is amazing. And to me, Get Healthy is just an incredibly important initiative.
What a great opportunity we have to be part of this. And I hope other cities across Utah will continue to work hard toward this because it's something to be proud of.
It's not just for the designation because you have to re-up every 3 years, and so it'll keep us moving forward and not just sitting in a stagnant place, and sometimes I think that's really easy to do.
We promote this type of activity, this type of wellness, mental and physical, and always have. It's a part of who we are. It's clear from our citizen feedback that it's important to them, and so we're super excited about it.
We encourage all cities and towns, no matter your size, to apply to become a healthy Utah community. Applications and detailed information can be found at gethealthyutah.org.
We're proud to be among the approximately 50 cities who have now chosen to participate in this program and to apply for this Healthy Utah City designation. And to the 200 other cities, my colleagues and my friends, I recommend you look into this. It is not difficult, it's not cumbersome, and very likely something you're already doing.
So to all you mayors that are out there and sitting on the sidelines and watching this and asking yourself, should we do this? Do it. If you don't, you're gonna be left behind. And I would just recommend, advise, encourage, do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Deputy Director of the Utah League of Cities and Towns, Molly Wheeler.
Hello. We're here to talk about dignity and civility in our local politics. Maybe. There we go. Last September at our annual convention, you as our members voted to pass the Dignity and Civility in Local Politics resolution. And as a part of that, there were a few actionable items for us to be looking at. How to disagree better, looking into codes of conduct, training and education, dignified dialogue, public awareness, and recognizing our positive role models. And I just wanted to take a minute to walk through what we've been doing with some of this. As far as Disagree Better, we've been working with the governor's office on their Disagree Better campaign with the National Governors Association. We had the governor speak at Local Officials Day. We've been supporting their campaign and working to model this behavior ourselves. As far as the code of conduct goes, we've been working on what we can do with this as a league. The board of directors voted to adopt a code of conduct for themselves, and we've also created a toolkit for you that's available on our website if your communities are interested in adopting a code of conduct for your members as well. If you do this, or if you've already done this, please let us know. We would love to build a repository of all of these codes of conduct and resolutions on our website to show cities leading out on this endeavor. As far as training and education goes, you saw a lot of that at this conference. How many of you have attended the public comment, the social media, or the conflict resolution workshops? A lot of you, that's great. We also held an event up in Cache County, which was excellent, and we're looking at how we can further expand this program to provide more hands-on training for our league and our members moving forward. As far as dignified dialogue, we've had some amazing keynotes come to speak on this issue. Tim Shriver, Laura Ling, even Noelle Picus-Pace yesterday really hit on some of these points, which were really exciting. As far as our public awareness campaign, we were able to partner with the Dignity Index to create league-tailored Dignity Index cards, which we mailed to all of your cities and towns. You were able to have them for your staff, pass them out to your community, and if there are any others, if you need more, let us know. We're happy to get you more. We also have a PDF available online if you'd like that. And finally, where I want to spend the bulk of this presentation is recognizing our positive role models. And one that we wanted to highlight today was Mayor Donia Jessup of Hilldale, and have her come speak a little bit about how Hilldale has been incorporating the Dignity Index.
This is always so tedious, trying to get situated.
We can do it. We can do hard things. So, Mayor, Hilldale has seen a lot of change during your tenure. Can you describe some of those changes, what they were?
not only did we have a change, we had a complete reset in Hilldale. I'm sure many of you, if not all, have heard the story, how when I walked in the door, my staff and boards all walked out. So I got a natural reset in my community. So I went to work. It took about 3 months to replace all the board and the staff members. And then we went to work on the next level, which was to rebrand our city. So that was great. We had a complete change of demographic in our community, and our new brand is Welcome Home. And that was very thought out. Welcome home to those who stayed and now you live in a new community. Welcome home to those who left and are coming back to a completely new community. And welcome home to any of you all across. We have new people moving in that have never been there before, and we want to welcome them home. We want them to feel included.
Welcome home, I love that. What was it like to, was there any, I would imagine there's some tension, there's some conflict with that kind of change. What was it like navigating that and overcoming that?
So, honestly, I love the Dignity Index and the Disagree Better because it's what we had to do. We had, with that reset, we had the opportunity to create new relationships, to change the narrative, to get ahead of the story. In my community, as you all well know, whenever we're in the news, it's like, wah! Have you heard what's going on? So now, to create those relationships to where people can come and say, hey, I heard this. Can you tell me the truth of it? Or can you tell me what's really going on in Hilldale? So that helped a lot to just recreate those relationships with not only the people in our community, but neighboring communities, our counties, and the state.
That's amazing, thank you. So how specifically have you used the Dignity Index in Hilldale? And I'm curious about that in two regards, how you've used it among your city officials, your staff, and how it's been used in your community more broadly.
Absolutely. So I loved Tim Shriver's presentation. We were flying high when we left here last year. We ordered the Dignity Index cards, and we implemented it immediately. So in my staff meeting quarterly, so every 3 months, we went through the Dignity Index with the staff and then just asked them certain situations, because we've had a lot of pretty rough situations out there. We took the wild, wild west and started to rope it in and say, hey, we have rules. And so and people didn't like that. But we went from, and this is kind of I don't want to traumatize anybody, but I'm going to tell you a little bit of something that happened in Hilldale. We had a man that wanted to put up a big block fence, which is great. It was going to be a beautiful fence. But when he needed to get a building permit for that, he said, I'd rather take a gun to myself before I'll get a building permit. We had to diffuse the situation, meet him where he was at, bring it back, and say, hey, it's a $29 fee simply so we can make sure that it's not going to fall down on your neighbors. So to meet him where he was at, to look through his eyes and see what was some of the conflict he was facing, we could take those numbers from an 8 to a 1. And so to be able to talk to the staff about that, ask them, where were you at? How were you feeling? What could you have done differently? Or what can you do different in the future to change those numbers? So then we took that, the staff loved it, and then I talked about it in our town council meeting. I told them about Tim Shriver. We brought out the Dignity Index cards and just told them, this is how we as a city will be interacting with you. This is how we would like you to interact with us. And so many things have changed in Hilldale. It's a slow process, but when you can look, like I have the Dignity Index in my bag all the time. It's hanging on our wall at Hilldale. All of the town council members have it. And when you can just check yourself, just a really quick check, it helps you to diffuse you. So that's how we've started to implement it.
That's amazing. And do you feel like your community's been receptive to it as well?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I love that we're bringing it up again because it's like, oh, it's fresh, new, and exciting again. Let's work even harder.
That's amazing. What wisdom or advice do you have for other cities based on your experience? As you said, Hilldale is kind of ground zero for a lot of this.
Thank you for asking that. Yesterday I was asked to speak out to Rocky Vista University, and someone asked me a question that no one has ever asked me. I've been presenting for 8 years now, And someone asked me a question that's never been asked, and it really made me think. They said, how do you forgive? How do you forgive when you've been hurt by the very community you came from, hurt by the outside when you were seeking safety? How do you forgive? And I was like, oh my gosh. I forgive by replacing all of the trauma and the hurt with gratitude. When my feet hit the floor in the morning, the whole room is lit up with gratitude. I am so grateful for how far we have come. I'm so grateful for the tools and the relationships and every person that has reached out and said, hey, what can we do to help? And for me to be able to say thank you, or I can't take your help right now. Just meeting me where I'm at, having dignity with me. And each one of us, our whole point, the whole reason we're sitting in this room is to create community, to create that sense of belonging for every single person in our community. The reason we stay up at night, we've talked about several times, what keeps you up at night? The people that we love keep us up at night. We talk about social media, how people can post things anonymously and feed so much misinformation all of the time. How do we get ahead of that? And so for me, with all of that that comes at me all the time, is gratitude. Have more gratitude. I can have more gratitude, and I have so much gratitude. I'm filling this entire room with it right now.
That's outstanding. Thank you so much for taking some time to come up and chat with us and share your story from Hilldale.
Thank you.
And finally, before I hop off stage, the joie de vivre of the league, our favorite thing, asking you to subscribe to Friday Facts. For those of you who don't know, Friday Facts is the #1 way that we communicate with our members. We send you our weekly newsletter. It has all the information you need. So please, please, please make sure you are subscribed so we can make sure we are connecting with you.
Please welcome back to the stage, Mayor Michelle Kafusi.
I'm just kind of angling a little bit because I feel bad having my back over here. So during our conference, we often discuss how we can maintain quality of life in our communities, especially for our current and for our future residents that are projected to come to our cities and towns, which is why I'm excited to be moderating the Pathways to Prosperity, Shaping Utah's Future in 2034 panel. Everyone loves a good panel. I learn the most when I watch panels and listen to them, so we thought this will be a great day to do a panel. This panel will feature some of Utah's, and I've just been nervous since we've been working on this because I'm like, they're all so smart. Okay, that's all right. I'm gonna learn from them because they're all experts in their fields. The panel will feature some of our essential figures in the growth policy realm, including Utah Great Salt Lake Commissioner Brian Steed, Director of the Kempsey Gardner Institute, an all-time favorite for league people, Natalie Gochner, and Senior Advisor for Housing Strategy and Innovation. And Steve probably should just, we feel like he is in the league because he spends so much time with us, Steve Waldrop. So please join me in welcoming our panel members to the stage. All right, not to make anybody feel a little bit nervous, but you are, well, you're not, you probably talk to bigger groups, but we're really excited and proud to say that you're talking to the largest attendance of the league members ever at a spring conference, with 603 members total and 133 people are attending this event for their very first time. We're really excited about those numbers. So just right out of the gate, in 3 minutes or less, We want you to introduce yourself and your role in as engaging a manner as you can muster on a conference stage. So in other words, I want you to help us to know who you are and what you do. But let's have some fun with this. Just picture, because I feel like I'm still in high school, that you're talking to a bunch of high school kids out here that don't really, you don't want to bore us. You want to kick it off with a bang. So why don't you tell us something fun and engaging, just a fun fact about each of you that'll keep a bunch of high school students awake. Go ahead and start right here.
Wow, no pressure on that. I'm Brian Steed. I have two roles. I am the Commissioner of the Great Salt Lake, but I'm also the Executive Director of the Janet Quinney Lawson Institute for Land, Water, and Air at Utah State University. In both those roles, I get to work on water policy and on land policy and air policy, because the Great Salt Lake touches each of those, and get to make sure that we're making the best decisions on behalf of our natural resources, given the fact that we know we're going to grow. We know that we're going to have additional challenges. And to make this fun, because this could be verbal narcolepsy, I'll tell you this. One time when I was a younger person, I was doing an internship in Washington, D.C. for the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And Harrison Ford, the actor, Indiana Jones, Han Solo, the guy, was there to testify in Tibet, because when I say Harrison Ford, obviously you all thought Tibet. And there I was on national TV, pouring his water, and Harrison Ford leaned into the microphone and said, "Thank you." So Harrison Ford spoke to me, yeah.
You're famous. Now
That's
you're
right.
a big deal to us high school students.
I can't top that, Brian. So Natalie Gochner, I lead the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute at the University of Utah. We specialize in the Utah economy and demographics and provide a lot of base data to help you make decisions. Really appreciate our partnership with the league. Okay, fun fact. I'm going to do two.
Oh, good.
Well, they're simple and quick. So I have 7 older brothers. I want you to just kind of think about that for a minute. What my life is like. The other second fact would be I played soccer the first year there was a women's league in the state of Utah.
We love that.
Yeah, played for 25 years, 3 or 4 times a week, except for during 2 pregnancies, and I'm a huge soccer fan.
What position? You got to tell us your position.
Oh yeah, everyone asks that. I started up top. My favorite is the central mid, and I ended my career at right fullback.
So she's fast. She's coachable. I bet every coach loved her because she could move around. Good for you. Thank you so much. All right.
I watched a movie with Harrison Ford once, and I played indoor soccer for a few years until they decided I was too big and slow. I'm Steve Waldrop. I'm the Governor's Policy Advisor for Housing. I do feel like an adjunct league member somehow, because your issues are my issues. My goal is to reverse the trend of inaccessibility for home ownership. We've got a very frightening trend in our nation. It's not just Utah, but I believe Utah is uniquely positioned to do unique things around this. I'll tell you a fun story about me, and if you were on a flight to Washington, D.C. from Salt Lake, that direct flight, in about 2006, I am super sorry.
Can't wait to hear that.
In my house in Eden, Utah, we had some skunks that continually came by and ate our cat food and dog food, and so I had a trap, a live trap, and I would get the skunks caught, and then I had a system where I would take a plastic, painting tarp, and I would walk up to the cage and I would drop it gently over the cage, and then the skunk would go nuts, but the plastic would contain it all, and I would take the cage, and then I would take the skunk for a swim. And I had a direct flight to D.C. It was, the morning flight. I had to leave at like 4:30 in the morning or something from my house to get to the airport. There was a skunk in the trap, and I was going to be gone for 3 days. Now, I knew my wife and my 4 young boys were there. I couldn't leave that for them. And I thought, well, let me just take care of this on my way out the door. So it was early in the morning. I grabbed my tarp. I put it down. I went and took the skunk and put it in the field and just thought, the skunk will be fine for a few days. And the skunk, of course, sprayed, and it smells, but I thought, it always smells a little bit, I'm fine. And I got in my car, and I was driving to the airport, and I'm like, wow, it's lingering. And I got to the airport and thought, it's not good. But I had no choice. I had to get there. I had no options in my mind, and so I got on the plane. It was a full flight.
Oh.
I was in a middle seat in coach, and I had a fleece, which really absorbs odors. And so I sat down, and I immediately took my fleece off, thinking, well, let me just make it less bad. And so I stuck my fleece in the overhead bin, and proceeded on this 5-hour flight. I did not look at anyone. I did not get up. I sat stock still for the entire flight, hoping that I would just disappear as a 6'8" guy on coach. Always does. And of course, when we got there, I opened the overhead bin, and it was just like this blast of skunk smell, and I thought, wow. People with their luggage up there are not going to be happy. And I got out of got off the plane, and I went, and I got within about 15 feet of my brother, who was picking me up, and he just started to gag, and he was like, oh my gosh! And so I washed those clothes several times. They had a mud bath from Israel that they made me take, and within a few days, I smelt fine. So that is a fun fact about me. And again, if you were on that flight with me, I'm sorry.
That's exactly what we wanted to hear from all three of you, is true stories about who you are. So that's really helpful. Thanks for sharing. I'm going to check the list of people so to make sure I'm never on that flight with you. Okay, let's get busy and get into the business part of this. So why don't we, for question number 2, give us a quick snapshot of where Utah is now, and let's start with Steve on housing.
Where is Utah now on housing?
It's just a little question.
Well, I'll talk about Mideast Peace first, because it's simpler. We have a unique situation in our state's history, but we're also mirroring the rest of the country, where we had a swale in housing production after the 2009 crash. Most of our small builders went out of business. We had a drop in production, and that U-shaped drop in production for that number of years created a housing deficit that we are still dealing with today. Depending on, I think the latest numbers from Natalie's Institute are about 38,000. We have about 38,000 more households than we have places for households to live. I think, let me just say, does anybody in this room have someone in their family, in their extended family, or in their neighborhood who has a child living with them in their basement, an adult child living in the basement? Raise your hand.
Thank you for saying only one child, because I would be embarrassed if you asked how many, so.
This is unique. It used to be kind of a very limited thing where you had a kid that, the boomerang kid, and there were movies about it for a while, and now it's like everybody has somebody. And it's, we have this housing affordability crisis because we have a deficit, and the laws of supply and demand are fairly strict. If you have less of something than you need, it will go up, and we saw that over the past several years. The statistic I think that I'll use today, and again, this is from Natalie's group, the median home price in Utah used to cost about 3.2 times your annual salary, and now it's, I think, 6.4 times your annual salary. So affordability of the median house in Utah has been cut in half. This has created a scenario where most of our young people who are graduating from college, most of our nurses, our techs, our civil servants who are coming into the workforce and even have been in the workforce for a number of years can no longer afford to purchase a home, to become homeowners. which is extremely frightening when you think about 40, 60 years from now, when we have generations that have not been able to build equity and generational wealth through home ownership, which is our number one tool. And it creates a very, very serious long-term problem for our economy, for our culture, for our nation. When we lose the middle class, we lose America. And that is the threat that we're under when we think about housing attainability and ownership statistics. And so, yes, I am Chicken Little, but it's a real Chicken Little. So now that I've depressed you all, I'll let Natalie talk about something.
Thank you. Okay, Natalie, our question for you then, similar, is can you tell us how the demographics and the economy is doing in the state of Utah right now?
Yeah, happy to do that. Start with demographics. Many of you have heard us talk about the new Utah. It's this idea that after the pandemic, the ground shifted and we reached an inflection point. And there's a variety of transitions, but I think for this crowd, I'll just highlight three. We're a mid-sized state. I think the NHL announcement this week is part of that. So we're no longer a small state, we're mid-size. Second is that we're now getting the majority of our growth from the outside rather than the inside. This is 32 of 33 years of net in-migration to this state. If I tally that up, that's about 650,000 people. That's about the size of Utah County in the 2020 census. So that's how many we've added through migration. And then the third one I'd highlight, demographically speaking, is that we are multicultural. 1990, 1 in 10 a racial and ethnic minority in this state. Today it's about 1 in 4. Stunning. Economically, you all know the talking points. Great economy, fastest growing economy in the state, best performing. Wall Street Journal says great things about us. U.S. News and World Report says great things about us. I'm telling you today, the Utah economy has slowed. It's slowed quite significantly. We're now growing at about the national average. States around us, Idaho, Nevada, Colorado, Arizona, all growing faster than Utah. That's not a huge problem. We're still like the bottom of the top 10. But I think it's important for you to know that the most recent data shows that we have slowed significantly. And I credit housing for some of that. And then the last thing I'll say about it is 2 industries are in decline in this state: information and financial activities. They're based on interest rates, right? Interest rate sensitive industries. Construction normally would be affected because of the shortage. It's still booming. But financial activities and information, the tech sector, are actually contracting. And the second fastest growing industry in the state right now is government. So I'll let you think about that for a minute. Okay.
And we all feel that because all of us are in budget season, right? And we were hoping for better numbers so we didn't have to scale back our budgets, and it's not coming to fruition. So we are having to scale back, and we're all under a lot of pressure this year with our municipal budgets. And it's budget season. Thank you. Brian, why don't you talk to us about water, and particularly the Great Salt Lake? I know that's your favorite topic.
It is. It's what I get to talk about all the time. And I get the lucky position of actually giving good news, unlike the Debbie Downers over here. So the Great Salt Lake has been imperiled for a lot of years. We've seen this state of decline since the 1980s. In 2022, we saw the lowest point we've ever seen since the pioneers arrived, and that had a lot of us freaking out. The good news is we've had 2 good winters. Those 2 good winters have actually had a really positive effect on the lake. And so the lake has 2 sides, a north arm and a south arm. In terms of biological stuff, we're really concerned about the south arm. So we were able to manage salinity and bring salinity down on the south arm so it's still ecologically viable. That's great news. And then secondly, we were able to make sure that we had a lot more water. The south arm has gone up about 6 feet since our low point. This year alone, it's at about a half foot higher than it was at our all-time high of last year. And after that historical water year, that's great news. The other good news is because we've had 2 good water years in a row, we've actually filled many of our reservoirs. And those reservoirs now are in a much healthier position. as is groundwater and other places. So we expect to have higher runoff into the Great Salt Lake over the next months. So that's the good news. But because everyone calls me Dr. Doom, I get to say some of the bad news as well.
Debbie Downer.
I know, I just want to join the club. At least there's no skunks involved yet. The bad news is this: we have a supply and demand problem in Utah when it comes to water. And the supply and demand problem comes to we have either relatively constant supply, or in some models, giving what's climate change or whatever you'd like to call it, is sometimes a decreased supply. And that comes, even though you have more rain, you actually have more evaporative loss. We won't get into all that. So a relatively steady supply. Demand, however, is increasing because we have a lot more people coming here, and that means that we're gonna have to decide how we use water differently. There was a time when people were A-okay with this trade-off. We're gonna have lots of water for people, no water for the lake. We're now seeing that, well, those things are connected. People's perception of their well-being because of dust or because of, the waterfowl or whatever else that are important to you, that an unhealthy Great Salt Lake has a perception problem that then causes people to feel less good about their well-being. And it probably has health effects as well. Those facts combined mean that we're gonna have to make sure that we are more conscientious of how we use our water going forward. And again, that's the bad news. The good news is we have the tools. We know how we can do it. And I'm actually really optimistic that we can make that happen.
That's great. Thank you. All right. For question number 2, my dear friend, former Governor Mike Lovett, is known for saying that the key time for problem solving is when the problem is big enough to see it and small enough to do something about it before it becomes unfixable. So where are we on that problem spectrum when it comes to housing, water, demographics, and the economy? So let's go ahead and start with you.
We are at the front end of it, I think. The deficit that's been created has been over the last 10 years. So we're not so far down the path that we cannot reverse that deficit. But it's going to take a different mindset. When we look back at the history of our country, we had, following World War II, we had a lot of GIs come home, and they all needed housing. And so we built a lot of housing in post-World War II era. What did we build? What did you guys grow up in? 1,200 square feet, 1,300 square feet, 1,400 square feet. You were lucky if you had a garage. Most people had a carport. Sometimes in the future they framed that in and created a garage. And we allowed them to buy what they could afford. We built what they could afford to buy. And that was the beginning of this boom of wealth that has been the tidal wave. We're on the back end of this tidal wave of wealth creation that started in post-World War II with property ownership and with the creation of generational wealth through property ownership. So what we have to do now is look back at history and say, okay, the standard had become or has become a 3-bedroom, 2-bath starter home, 2,800 square feet, 4-bedroom, 2 baths. We had split levels in the 80s. You had 2-car garage, and an RV pad. Our starting out people and our mid-career people who want to get into homes can no longer afford that. We have to go back to the time and mindset where we built what people could afford in our cities. And that requires a significant shift in how we view neighborhood prosperity, how we view our zoning ordinances, how we view our neighbors. And one of the keys to that, and this is one of the keys for this group, is we have to create tools that allow municipalities to require owner occupancy. Because that is the key to wealth creation. Last year, about 30% of the housing built in Utah was bought by corporate ownership. I think we were number 5 or 6 in the country. which tells us that Utah has a very good future in the housing market. There's a lot of wealth to be created, but that also creates issues when we are building things that aren't for our people to move into, and it creates that long-term issue. Thank you. I owe you $10. But we have to go back to that mentality of building things that people can afford and making sure that the people that we want to move into our communities, the people we want to create stability for, are able to move into those homes. They're able to create wealth over the life of their working career. And then that housing, again, I'm kind of a housing guy. Education achievement, teen pregnancy, community engagement, crime rates, every social issue that we care about, homelessness, all relate to the cost of housing and our ability to put people in ownership position and in stable housing. So all of those kind of social things that we care about are tied directly to whether or not we're putting people in housing. And I know that all of you in this room have dealt with neighbors that when you say we're going to build some starter homes in our community, we're going to do townhomes, they're right in front of you with a pitchfork and a torch, and you're ruining my way of life, and you're going to destroy our community, you're killing us. What is wrong with you? We're going to vote you out of office. We're going to chase you down and find you and terminate your political life. We have to change that narrative. And we have to change the narrative to say that the quickest way to destroy our quality of life and our way of life in Utah is not building starter homes in our neighborhoods. It's not building starter homes in our neighborhoods and exporting our children, which is what's happening right now. Go to Tennessee. You can buy a starter home in Tennessee. Go to Texas. Anecdotally, we have a lot of people who are telling me that they have children who are on their last attempt to buy homes, and if they can't, they're going to move to a different state. And that drain of talent, that drain of cultural upbringing, that drain of our communities is really, really serious. And so I do believe we're at a point now where we can reverse this. And again, Utah is unique because guilt works in Utah. I can go to city councils and mayors, and this has worked. And I say, you're doing the wrong thing. What you're doing is morally wrong by not providing housing for your kids. And it actually hits them. And I go to the development community, and I say, by building only big things, you're hurting our state. You're hurting our people. And it actually hits them. They still have souls. And if you didn't know, most developers, not all, but most, still have souls. So I do think we have an opportunity to correct that. And I think we're in time, but we cannot wait.
Thank you.
So Mayor, I'm thinking of the question you're asking is, what are the big gears we should focus on? And the concept is that the big gear is the thing that if you focus on it, all the other little gears will turn. Steve, you do a great job describing the situation we're in. I've never seen a public policy issue hit us from seemingly out of nowhere like this housing crisis. We were just doing A-OK, and in 2018, all whatever hit the fan as the prices accelerated. And as much as I sense a little optimism in your description and whatnot, I think this is going to take a lot of time. I don't think it's fundamentally a private sector activity that right now is threatened by labor shortages and supply shortages and land shortages, and these forces of supply and demand will do their thing. It's going to be hard. But I'm super happy that our state's so aware, so talking about it. The quick one that I'd throw out there is a big gear, and it kind of relates to housing. In 1982, Time Magazine made the personal computer the person of the year. It was supposed to be kind of funny, They put a picture of a PC on their cover. For a lot of people in academic research, that's signaled the start of the computer age, the information age, if you will. If we look at the distribution of income since that point in time, it's what is commonly referred to as bounty and spread. People who are well educated get a bounty. People who are not well educated, huge spread. And I think it's part of the problem here, because you can go at the housing issue or life quality issues from a variety of ways, but the most effective way is to give our human capital, our children, our people, the ability to have gainful employment. And that starts with education. That starts with investment in human talent and skills. So, you know, I'm a Murray resident, so at the local government place, that's easy to say, Murray School District, put it out there. But the thing that I would say to all of you in your public leadership roles is to don't miss the importance of education as the primary activity we can do to have a successful economic future.
Thank you. So great. Okay.
So from the water point of view, I'm just going to start out with the mic drop. We don't have to worry about housing or education or anything else without water. If you don't have water, none of the rest of that matters. We're not going to get there. And if you look at the West, the history of the West has been a quest for water security. And that quest for water security has never actually stopped because situations always change. Given that, I think that we you all, as the policymakers in your respective communities, have a real challenge in front of you. But the good news is you also have a real opportunity in front of you to make sure that as you grow, and you will grow, that you're doing so in a way that you're keeping in mind that water security is going to be an issue forever. Which means that as we grow and we have that limited supply, but increasing demand, we're going to have to grow differently than we have heretofore done. And that means that we're going to have to grow. What we're pushing for is something approaching water neutrality, right? So you have water neutral growth to where you're using the water that you already have. I moved into a home. I moved up to Logan a couple of years ago. One of the things that I'm really looking at doing this year is taking out my park strip. And I know for the city folks that's controversial, but I will say why, because I can't water that in a way that I'm not watering the pavement on either side, whether that's on the cement side or the asphalt side. And despite my best efforts, that asphalt has never grown. It's just evaporative loss, and I'm going to take out the park strip this year because that's going to be a water savings. As we grow, you need to be mindful of this notion that we probably all can't have quarter-acre lawns. 60% of our municipal and industrial water use is outside. Much of that is in grass that will never be walked on. And that's a problem. And so we're just going to have to do something very different than we've heretofore done. There was a time as well that we could say, hey, we're going to go find a new source of water, and we're going to use that. I think the state is still invested in that. But we have to maybe think about if every other state is doing the same activity, which every other state is doing the same activity, the likelihood of us being successful in finding a large source of new water at a low cost is going to be challenging. Given that fact, conservation is your best investment. And I know that's not always popular with your citizens. Believe you me, I have these conversations all the time. I live in Cache County, which is quite water rich. And there's a lot of people that don't perceive there's any need for conservation there. That conversation is changing, and you're seeing that most aggressively right here in Washington County, to where there are real challenges in providing that water security. And so the opportunity that you all face, I guess it's a challenge as well, is to make sure that those policies match your water supply. And that's something that's going to be work. I know it's going to be something that people care loudly about, because as that issue that people need water to live, people care loudly about their water and the price of water, but it's going to be something that we're going to have to encounter. Last thing I'll say about this, and it's oftentimes not your call, but it's your water supplier's call. Water pricing does make a difference on how much people use, and it's the one thing in economic terms that we frequently undervalue is water, because we deliver it at a very low cost and subsidize people's use. If water prices even rise marginally, you're seeing reductions in that, and that's something that I think that as a policy lever, we all have to be more mindful of.
Thank you. So I'm just feeling heavy. That was a lot of heavy. So in 30 seconds or less, answer to me what you have seen over the past few years that makes you optimistic about your issue. So we're going to flip it. Just give us 30 seconds of at least one positive you've seen. We'll start here.
We've seen a lot of positive in the waterfront. We've seen major changes in water law, as well as major attention paid to the water resource. In the municipal side, you're seeing lots of different ordinances being adopted and lots of facility from the state to provide financing for those changes. Both those things have major impacts. And I think there's great room for optimism. This is something that we can fix, and we can actually fix it relatively fast.
Mayor, I'll go with, I love it when our state aligns, when we have alignment. I feel like in the Great Salt Lake world, there's been a lot of alignment. It makes me really optimistic. So what I've seen in the 32nd world is what I think of as the Project Human Dignity, or the Utah Impact Partnership, if you're familiar with this, but this is our state's efforts to help our homeless brothers and sisters. If you haven't seen these this public service announcements going out, keep an eye, they're out there. They debuted during the LDS conference weekend, but the state, our capital county, our capital city, and the philanthropic community have absolutely aligned to help with chronic homelessness, and they're starting from the standpoint of dignity, and that makes me really optimistic.
I think for me, it's just the level of engagement that I've seen from people up and down the political spectrum, from the private sector. Interestingly, I think the fact that the number of hands you've seen raised in this room when I asked how many people knew or had someone living in their basement indicates that it is hitting home, and people are recognizing that this is an issue that we have to confront, and it's going to be tough, and it's going to take some time, but people are willing to engage in the discussion. And we've seen it at the legislative level, we've seen it at the executive level, we've seen it at the community level, and we've seen it in the private sector. So that makes me optimistic.
Thank you. Okay, Natalie totally teed this up. I have listened to her. I have watched her in person give speeches. I watch her in meetings when I'm working late. And she teed this up. The big question, to use one of Natalie's terms, what are the big gears, and she's already thrown that out there today, that we as mayors, council members, and policymakers need to consider in tackling the challenges and opportunities that you've addressed? We want to be helpful. Go ahead and start. You don't get a break.
Thank you. The big gear really is perception and intent. We have to be different in our perception of what benefits our communities, and we have to be very intentional in how we design what we're doing in housing. And again, going back to that 1950s model where we built things that people could afford, we have to start thinking about the people angle to it more than we think about the real estate angle to it. And that is a challenge for developers, it's a challenge for city councils and planning commissions and mayors to think about, okay, I know what I want. And I go back to when I bought my first house for $106,000 in Spokane, Washington. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And I wanted a bigger house. I wanted a better house. I couldn't afford one. And so we have to go to that structure, and that thought process is our primary gear is, what do our people need? What can they afford? And who are we building this for? We're not building homes for the people that live in our neighborhoods already. We're not building homes for the people that are established and have been there for me, for us here at the table, for most of the people in this room. Those are not who we're building homes for. We're building homes for our kids and our grandkids, for their futures, for our great-grandkids' futures. And so changing the perception of who we're building homes for changes that narrative around, I don't want that in my neighborhood. I don't want to see cars in a driveway I mean, how insane is that discussion, right? We have to have garages. Like, if the car's on the road, totally fine. But if you put a car in that driveway, holy cow, you're killing me here. I mean, that is just, that's ludicrous, but that is part of the narrative that we've developed in our communities. And so we have to just change that kind of mental cog of, we're not building homes to placate people who are already in our neighborhoods. We're not building homes to make sure that they're comfortable with what they have and where they are. We are building homes for the future of our children and our grandchildren and what they are going to be able to do for the rest of their lives. We have to change that, and that to me is the biggest gear that we have to confront, is that desire to not upset the apple cart.
So I've already spelled out, that education is the policy big gear that I think of. If I picked a behavioral big gear, listen more. Keep an open mind. Because of these demographic shifts, because we're a new Utah, we have different voices, more voices. We have to listen to them. Mac Wilberg, leads the Tabernacle at Temple Square. He's got this great quote where he said, "The secret to success in the choir is to listen louder than you sing." So just think about that. Listen louder than you sing. In public policy, what that means, if you're just singing really loud, people turn you off. If you don't sing loud enough, nobody hears you. If you are, not harmonizing, if you're putting out a discordant note, that doesn't help. And so we need to listen more, and that will help us be more successful.
I would say, in terms of water specific, the big gear that I'd encourage you all to consider is planning for water scarcity and not planning on water abundance. There's a lot of human nature that we say, hey, sure, it's bad now, but it's going to get better. And I wish I had a crystal ball that says it absolutely will. I don't. I can say there's going to be more demand on those resources coming forward. And if we want to maintain the quality of life that we have here, we've got to plan for that. And if we don't, water policy is destined to have a series of holy crap moments to where you realize, holy crap, we don't have any water to provide for our people. And people will care much more loudly if you run out of water than anything else you could possibly do. And just be aware that that's out there, and so plan for that water scarcity. And that means growing differently, probably, growing more wisely. That doesn't mean we don't have great housing opportunities. It just means probably a little more intentional use of sod and other things, and we can make that difference.
I want to just add that as I hear all of this, be prepared to change.
Yeah.
Because what we're talking about is we need to change if our future is going to be like we want it to be.
Thank you. That was really helpful. All right, we have had an amazing conference, and we have been focused and excited about the Olympics. So I want you to switch gears and put on your Olympic ski gear. And a huge part of our Olympics back in 2002 were our volunteers. So anyone who volunteered back then, will you please stand up so we can thank you? So wonderful. And I know after 2034 is announced on July 24th, and we're ready to go, when we ask this question 10 years from now, more will be standing. It's super exciting. My first question on that is, what would success look like in housing, water, and economy when the Olympics arrive, but more importantly, afterwards? We're an Olympic city. We have our Peaks Ice Arena, and we hosted the IOC. It was amazing. And their vision is just fascinating, because it's no longer just this one game, right? It's all about sustainability. And, we're projecting maybe that we pick 4 cities to host the Winter Games, and we rotate to save money and all those things. And so they focused on afterwards. When we're gone, We love that your venue is functioning and has been functioning after we left last time. So what do you think it will look like in the water, the demographics and economy, and the housing after the Olympics?
Water's first, okay. I wish I could say that the water future of the state doesn't matter when it comes to the Olympics. It turns out it does. Our ski venues and other things that will determine whether or not we have a Beijing-esque Olympics, to where you see manufactured snow and brown on either side of the ski runs, is going to depend on how we treat those resources going forward. Great Salt Lake is going to, I think, be key. It's going to be something that has already garnered tons of international attention. I have been interviewed personally by the Wall Street Journal of Japan, which I don't know what it's called, but it's essentially that, and they were very concerned about that. Norway has been calling frequently to say what's going on with Great Salt Lake, and I couldn't go through all of the different international contact points I've had. The Olympics is an international event, and it will draw international attention, and if we have problems, those problems will be highlighted as a problem for the Olympics. Again, the good news is I think we have 10 years, and we are able to then get our stuff together. One last thing just to point out, Great Salt Lake does have a direct impact on snowpack. If we have a smaller Great Salt Lake, we have smaller snowpack. A larger Great Salt Lake has a larger snowpack, and that's good news. Let's have a larger Great Salt Lake.
Thank you.
What I'll say, so I'm an economist by training. We do the economic work for the state on the economic impact of the games, which means you also look at the demographic impact. You can divide the games into 17 days of the Olympics and 10 days of the Paralympics. It's absolutely the wrong way to think about the Olympics. It's so much more than 27 days. It's the 10 years before and the 10 plus years afterwards that we have to think about. But here's, and so we estimate the economic impact. It's massive, it's big, it's a good thing for our state, but that's not the point. It's interesting, but it's not the point. So we had an incredible experience a couple of weeks ago when Senator Romney and Frazier Bullock and Olympic athletes, Governor Mike Leavitt all got together and talked about what did we learn from the past and how does it relate to the future of the Olympics. And Senator Romney said this, and it really touched me. And he said, we got to get out of this, mindset of thinking what the Olympics does for us, and we got to think about the gift that we give to the world. And I think that is the absolute right way to think of the Olympics. We have a world that is on fire. We have a world that needs us. Utah projects something so positive, so meaningful, so beautiful to the world, and now we've got this Olympics to even do that in a better way, a second time. So I would just turn that question to think about this is a service enterprise. It's not about us benefiting, it's about us serving. I think that's really important.
That's amazingly profound. I think, when I think about the run-up to the Olympics and in the aftermath, if we think back to 2002, it was a reach for Utah to get the Olympics. But that reach has created a lot of what we have today. This round, it's not so much of a reach as it is, okay, yeah, it makes sense for us because we put a lot of that investment in, we've done a lot of that. When I think about the run-up to the Olympics and what does success look like, I think it looks like we are ready to show the world this is how you grow well. We have the leadership in this room that can make that determination. This is how you do it. This is the way that you create ownership opportunities and value for the people in your state, and that you prepare for all the people who are going to come here and say, wow, this place is awesome. I want to be here. We already experienced that during the pandemic. Natalie's talked about the fact that, for the first time since like 1852, we have more in-migration than natural growth. It's a shift, and we have to be prepared for that because, in the realm of problems, there are good problems and bad problems. And having a place that nobody wants to be, that is not our problem. We have a really good problem in that we all love being here. There's a reason. that we all love being here. There's a reason why people want to come here. We have to be ready for that, and that vision and that leadership is in this room to create the opportunities around home ownership. When I think about, you think about big cities, right? And you say, okay, what happens when we have so much density and we create social issues? That's not a necessity. That's a byproduct of not thinking through things, I think, more than it is just what happens when you grow. And if you think about ownership opportunities in our densification, that changes the model of, we're going to just create social problems when we create more density to we're creating opportunities with that density for our children and our grandchildren. And so that's what I think that success looks like, is an opportunity viewpoint, a service viewpoint. We're creating the future for our kids and grandkids. We're creating a model for the world to look at. We are, for better or for worse, we are the light on the hill. We're the city on the hill. We are the light. People are looking to us that way more and more and more in a world that is literally on fire.
Thank you. All right, let's just do a quick 30-second answer on this one. What do you want mayors, council members, and city leaders to do to plan for the next 10 years to prepare for the Olympics? Because, again, we want to be helpful and engaged. Let's start. Go ahead, Brian. Why don't you go ahead and start?
Thanks.
See, don't sit close to me. Or you're
No, seriously, I've learned my lesson. I would say be prepared, be vigilant, and be mindful that perception does matter. How the Olympics is perceived from a global stage is going to be framed by the perception people have of us. And so how we grow does matter, how we utilize our resources matters, and the way you interact with your citizenry matters. And I think that you all deserve a huge congratulations, because I think that we're doing pretty well in the state that way. But keep it up. Thanks.
Yeah. When I think of this, Mayor, my mind goes two places. I think of an investment, a big project to be prepared for the Olympics. And then I think of an ideal. An ideal is, what is most important to you? What do you spend your time thinking about? What's that model of excellence that you're pursuing? I'm going to let someone else figure out the project thing. I think you should focus on an ideal in your community as you prepare for the Olympics. And what's the lens through which you're going to make decisions? And I'll give you an example. The lens that I might suggest is through the eyes of your children. Make decisions at the local level as you prepare for the games that have your children front and center, top of mind. That might be a good way to make a good decision.
Yeah. All right.
I would say lead. You've been elected as leaders. You've been appointed as leaders. Lead. Teach. Share a vision. And that vision relates exactly what Natalie just said. The vision is about our children and our grandchildren. It's not about placating those who are the loudest voices. That is not leadership. Leadership is sharing a vision and teaching why it matters. And I just think, each of us needs to take the position, each community needs to take the position. We need to lift where we stand. We need to do our part in our community. This is not everybody else's problem. This is my problem in my community. This is my problem in my backyard. And we need to solve it in each of our backyards.
Okay, great. Thank you. We're going to take one last question. And so in 3 words or less, how would you describe Utah's prospect for the next 10 years? I'm not going to pick on you. Natalie, will you go first, please?
Utah's prospect for the next 10 years.
Yeah, in 3 words. So 3 words only.
I'm going to flip it to advice and just pick off my last one. Find your ideal. Find your ideal for your community.
Okay. Go ahead, Steve.
Never done anything in 3 words or less. Lead with vision.
Good. Look, see, that was fantastic. You can do it. Okay, Brian.
No, it's worse
See
being
when
last.
you get to be the last?
It's worse now. I would say plan for prosperity.
Okay, those were wonderful. Let's all give our panel a thank you. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules and joining us down here at our LEAD convention. And this is the grand finale. You are the grand finale. So thank you so much. And you can go ahead and just exit off the stage and we'll wrap this convention up.